If you can point that weapon at me, you are healthy enough to hold this bowl, the human said. I opened my eyes expecting darkness and found a stranger stirring dinner beneath the broken roof of a ruined outpost. Dust drifted through red emergency lights. Wind moved across the cracked floor. Somewhere beyond the shelter walls, damaged metal groaned in the cold evening air. The human sat beside a compact field stove as though the battlefield around us were an inconvenient campsite. He was a white-skinned male, perhaps 29 years old, with short brown hair, gray-blue eyes, and a dark exploration jacket rolled above his forearms. A sealed cooking pot rested over a blue flame. The smell of vegetables, smoked seasoning, and warm broth filled a room that should have smelled only of burned circuits. I was Captain Mara Vale of the Asterian Reconnaissance Command. I remembered the car ambush, the collapse of my transport, and the final warning on my damaged armor. I remembered closing my eyes because no rescue signal had answered. Yet I was alive, lying on a thermal rescue mat with my shoulders sealed beneath a clean medical patch. My first instinct was not gratitude. It was suspicion. A compact defense device rested beside the human supply case. I reached for it, activated the grip, and aimed it at his chest. He looked at the device, then at me. Careful, he said. Your balance is not back yet. Identify yourself. Ethan Cole. He tasted the broth from a metal spoon. Needs another minute. What unit? Transport Survey Crew. Transport survey crews do not enter Dominion combat zones. Usually no. I pushed myself upright. The shelter tilted around me, but I refused to lower the device. Beyond the open doorway, several car soldiers lay motionless among disabled equipment, each secured with emergency restraint bands. None appeared seriously harmed. Their armor systems had simply been shut down. Ethan followed my gaze. They interrupted dinner. You did that alone? They were not listening. I ordered him to step away from the stove and place both hands where I could see them. Ethan sighed, set down the spoon, and moved with such casual precision that I did not recognize the danger until the power cell was no longer inside my weapon. He held it between two fingers. The device in my hand became a harmless piece of metal. My weakened legs gave way at the same moment. Ethan caught my forearm, guided me back onto the rescue mat, and placed a warm bowl beside me. That was your one dramatic mistake for the evening, he said. Eat slowly. I stared at him, furious that a civilian had disarmed me and more furious that he had done it without effort. Then my armor scanner flickered to life. 12 movement signals appeared beyond the eastern ridge. 20 became 30. 3 aerial signatures joined them. A Dominion recovery force was approaching fast. Ethan checked the display, adjusted the stove flame, and returned to stirring. They will reach us in 9 minutes, I said. 8.5, he corrected. Then we must leave now. Ethan lifted the lid, examined the steam, and shook his head. You need food before you can walk 3 miles. I looked toward the growing cluster of hostile signals. There is an entire car unit coming. He placed the lid back on the pot. I know. And you are cooking? Ethan glanced at the doorway, where the last light of evening revealed shapes moving along the ridge. Dinner is almost ready, he said. They can wait. The first minute disappeared while Ethan packed the meal, as if the approaching Dominion force were no more urgent than bad weather. He poured the stew into 2 sealed field containers, closed the stove, and checked the support brace around my injured shoulder. I watched the movement signals multiply across my armor display. 7 minutes, I said. 7 minutes and 20 seconds, Ethan replied. Plenty of time if you stop trying to stand. I ignored him and reached for the military transmitter attached to my belt. Asterian Command might not have answered before, but a direct officer channel could still summon help. Ethan noticed before my thumb touched the activation plate. His hand closed over the transmitter and removed it with a smooth motion that made my combat training feel embarrassingly slow. Give that back, I said. No. I rose anyway, forcing my legs to hold. I outrank every civilian in this sector. That is probably comforting on a functioning base. I stepped toward him and reached for the device. Ethan shifted aside, caught my wrist, and guided me past him without straying. Before I could recover, he had removed the transmitter power cell and placed both pieces on the supply table. You have interfered with a military officer twice, I said. 3 times, if we count dinner. My armor display marked the incoming force at less than 2 miles. I pointed toward the transmitter. That channel is encrypted. Ethan turned his portable scanner toward the eastern sky. 3 faint signals appeared above the ridge, too high for the outpost sensors to classify. "Those are not aircraft," he said. "They are relay drones." I studied the signal pattern. Each drone hovered at the edge of the transmission field, waiting silently. "Car listening platforms," I said. "Exactly. The moment you call your command, they confirm your position, your identity, and the direction of any rescue team." The realization settled colder than the evening wind. My original emergency signal had not failed. It had been allowed to continue because the Dominion wanted someone important to answer. Ethan opened a small maintenance panel beneath the transmitter and showed me a thin pulse of red light. They attached a handshake request to every military frequency in this region. "Your armor computer accepts it automatically." "How did you find that?" "Your transmitter tried to introduce itself to my cooking stove." I stared at him. "That is not possible." "Your military engineers probably thought so too." He connected a short cable from the transmitter to a damaged wall terminal. Instead of sending my identification code, he created 12 false signals and scattered them across the valley. The relay drones changed position immediately. Half the approaching troops turned south. Another group moved toward the abandoned landing field. Ethan watched the map divide, then disconnected the cable. Now they have several captains Mara Vale to chase. I checked the false signatures. Each one carried enough authentic data to survive a basic scan. A survey? Cook cannot do this. Ethan placed one food container in my hands. A hungry officer asks too many questions. A sharp tone interrupted us. One relay drone had ignored the decoys and was descending toward the outpost. Ethan looked through the broken doorway, then toward the remaining movement signals. 5 minutes, I said. 4 minutes and 52 seconds, he replied. He lifted his supply case, handed me a walking support, and nodded toward the rear passage. "Eat while we move." I looked at the descending drone and the soldiers closing from the ridge. What will stop them from following? Ethan picked up the folded stove with one hand and my disabled transmitter with the other. "They are expecting frightened survivors," he said. "We are going to give them a very confident empty building." The outpost did not look empty when the Dominion patrol reached it. Every emergency light was on, the front door stood open, and Mara's military transmitter repeated a false command signal from the center of the main room. Ethan had arranged the scene in less than 2 minutes. He placed a sealed food container beside me in the rear maintenance corridor, connected 3 damaged wall panels to the old pressure system, and adjusted the building controls until the entrance lights flashed like a landing beacon. "You are inviting them inside," I whispered. "Yes. That is not an evacuation plan. It is for us." The first car soldier appeared in the doorway, followed by 2 more carrying scanning equipment. Their captain called for my surrender. Ethan stayed behind the kitchen wall and raised one finger, asking me to remain silent. The patrol divided exactly as he expected. 4 soldiers entered through the front. 3 moved along the eastern service passage. Another group approached the roof access. Ethan watched their positions on a cracked maintenance display while calmly tightening the lid on the cooking pot. "You brought the stew," I said. "I worked hard on it." The car captain repeated his demand. Ethan pressed the first control. The front pressure door closed behind the leading team, separating them from the soldiers outside. Emergency lights changed from white to deep red. The car scanners immediately filled with false heat signatures moving through every room. 2 soldiers turned toward an empty storage area. Ethan activated the ventilation fans, sending dust and loose insulation through the western corridor. Their visibility dropped to a few feet. "Now," he said. We moved through the rear passage while the patrol searched for targets that did not exist. A car scout rounded the corner ahead of us and raised a restraint device. Ethan stepped between us. "Please lower that," he said. The scout advanced. Ethan touched the release on the device, removed its power cell, and guided the surprised alien into an open maintenance room. The door closed automatically. No alarm sounded. We continued. 2 more soldiers entered from the roof ladder and blocked the next intersection. Ethan pulled the emergency light lever. The corridor became dark for 1 second, then bright again. In that single second, both restraint devices had been placed on the floor, their safety locks engaged. The soldiers stared at their empty hands while Ethan pointed toward the maintenance room. "Join your friend." They obeyed. The car captain finally realized the outpost itself had become the trap. He ordered every team to converge on the kitchen. Ethan heard the command through the transmitter and glanced at the cooking pot under his arm. They entered a kitchen without asking, he said. That is rude on earth. He pressed the final control. The floor partitions rose between the rooms, dividing the patrol into small groups and locking every weapon system in emergency safe mode. The car soldiers were not injured. They were simply separated, disarmed, and unable to reach us. Ethan opened the rear exit and guided me into the cold night air. Behind us, the captain demanded to know who had designed the trap. Ethan closed the door and secured it with a manual latch. The building did most of the work, he said. I looked at the silent outpost, the trapped Dominion patrol, and the human carrying dinner as if nothing unusual had happened. You planned all of that while cooking? Ethan handed me the warm container. No, he said. I planned dinner first. The cold intensified as we left the outpost behind, and within half a mile my damaged armor began warning me that the left power channel was failing. Ethan kept a steady pace through the rocks, carrying the sealed cooking pot under one arm and his survey case in the other. He never looked hurried. That annoyed me more than the pain in my shoulder. We are moving northwest, I said. The Asterian extraction corridor is south. The southern route is compromised. You do not know our military routes. The Dominion does. I stopped walking. My boots scraped across the frozen ground, and Ethan turned only after reaching the next ridge. Captain, keep moving. You are a civilian in a combat zone. I am taking command. I activated the remaining power in my armor. The damaged suit responded with a weak hum, but the arm supports locked into place and the tactical display returned. Ethan looked at the warning lights along my shoulder plate. That system should stay off. You do not give orders to an Asterian officer. I am trying to keep the officer from falling over. I stepped forward and used a standard reconnaissance hold, intending to secure his wrist and force him to release the survey case. Ethan moved before the lock closed. He turned with my arm, pressed a small access point beneath the wrist plate, and the suit released its assisted grip. I attempted a second hold. He touched the power relay near my elbow. The right arm entered maintenance mode. I shifted my weight to block him with the shoulder plate, but Ethan stepped inside the armor's turning range and removed the central power connector from my belt. The entire suit settled into safe support mode. I remained standing, but every combat function disappeared. That armor has 3 emergency releases, he said. You marked all of them. I stared at the dark controls. Restore it. Not until the damage channel is isolated. You disabled an officer in the field. You tried to wrestle a cook with one working shoulder. He opened his survey case, removed a compact tool, and repaired the support brace without reactivating the combat systems. I wanted to object again, but a new signal appeared on my tactical display. Ethan had connected his scanner to the armor while he worked. The southern extraction corridor filled with movement markers. Not a patrol. An entire car company waited inside the canyon, supported by aerial scanners on both ridges. They knew the route, I said. They knew you would choose the official route. Ethan expanded the map. Heat signatures were hidden beneath thermal screens, but their spacing formed a clear containment pattern. My plan would have delivered us into the center of it. How did you detect them? The wind is wrong. I looked at him. The wind. Their thermal screens are heating the canyon walls. Warm air is rising from places that should be cold. He closed the map and handed me the food container. Eat. We need a new route. Already have one. He pointed toward a narrow ravine running west. That path leads closer to the ambush. Exactly. I studied his face, searching for any sign that he understood how unreasonable that sounded. Ethan tightened the strap on his survey case and began walking. They expect us to avoid them now, he said. So we are going to let them believe they were right the first time. I followed because my command route had become a trap. My armor belonged to him whenever he chose to touch it, and the human who claimed to be a cook was leading us directly toward an enemy company with dinner still warm under his arm. Ethan led me toward the canyon as though walking into an enemy formation were the most efficient route available. The western ravine narrowed between 2 walls of dark stone, forcing us into a path barely 12 feet wide. Above us, car aerial scanners moved behind thermal screens, their engines hidden beneath the rising wind. Ethan stopped beside an abandoned mining control box and placed the sealed cooking pot inside his insulated pack. You brought us to the edge of their position, I said. That was the idea. He opened the control box and connected his survey scanner to the ancient system. Most of the display was dark, but a map of forgotten mining tunnels appeared beneath the canyon floor. I counted more than 40 Dominion signals across the ridges. A second group waited ahead. 2 aerial devices circled behind us. We are surrounded, I said. Ethan adjusted 3 power relays. They think so. A car officer called from the ridge and ordered us to surrender. Ethan pressed a control, then looked up. No, thank you. The first restraint field swept across the ravine. Ethan pulled me behind a mining support column a moment before the blue light reached us. A second field crossed from the opposite ridge. He waited until the emitters synchronized, then activated the old extraction fans beneath the canyon. Dust rose in thick columns, covering the thermal screens and filling the car scanners with false movement. The enemy formation tightened exactly as Ethan expected. Stay beside the wall, he said. What are you doing? Making them stand where the mine wants them. He activated the buried conveyor rails. Metal platforms moved beneath the sand, dividing the canyon into narrow sections. Car soldiers tried to reposition, but emergency barriers rose between their teams, separating the ridge units from the ground force. Ethan guided me through the shifting passages while every enemy scanner searched one step behind us. An aerial device descended through the dust and locked onto my armor signal. Ethan threw a maintenance beacon toward an empty tunnel. The device followed it, entered the shaft, and lost connection with its operator. A second scanner came lower. Ethan reached the old command terminal, changed one identification code, and the machine turned toward the car ridge instead of us. You took control of it, I said. It was not properly secured. 3 Dominion soldiers emerged from a side passage and blocked our path. Ethan raised one hand. Please move. Their leader activated his armor and advanced. Ethan stepped aside, pressed the external safety release near the shoulder plate, and guided the armored soldier into a maintenance brace built into the wall. The suit locked in a stable position. The other 2 raised their devices. Ethan touched the floor control with his boot. A cargo barrier rose between them and us. That seemed unfair, I said. There were 3 of them. I meant unfair to them. Ethan checked the canyon map. The car company was now divided into isolated groups, their aerial scanners redirected and their command signals blocked by the mining network. He opened a service gate leading to the northern trail. Before following me through, he returned to the control box and removed his insulated pack. You went back for the food, I said. It took 4 hours to make. Behind us, the car commander demanded that Ethan identify himself. Ethan closed the service gate and secured it with the old mining lock. Tell him, I said. Ethan adjusted the pack on his shoulder and started up the trail. He can ask again after dinner. The northern trail climbed nearly 2,000 feet above the canyon floor before narrowing into a shelf of stone exposed to the freezing wind. My repaired support brace held, but the combat channels in my armor remained offline, and every step reminded me that Ethan had chosen mobility over firepower. Behind us, the car company was still trapped inside the mining network. Ahead, a single heavy signal appeared on my scanner. It moved too quickly for its size. That is not a patrol unit, I said. Ethan set his survey case beside the trail and removed the insulated food pack from his shoulder. No, it is the person they send when patrols fail. The car warrior emerged from the drifting dust in armor nearly 8 feet tall, reinforced with adaptive plates and powered stabilizers. Its helmet projected a deep voice across the ridge. Surrender, Captain Vale. Human, and you may leave. Ethan checked the seal on the food container. No, thank you. The warrior advanced. I forced power into my armor and stepped in front of Ethan. One combat channel returned long enough to raise my forearm shield. I can hold him, I said. Your left stabilizer is failing. I am still a soldier. Then act like one and protect the injured shoulder. The car warrior activated a restraint field. I moved to block it, but my armor lost power halfway through the step. The shield vanished. My left leg locked. Ethan caught the back of my armor and pulled me clear before the field closed. He placed me beside the rock wall, removed the central power connector, and turned toward the advancing warrior. Stay here. His armor can adjust to any recorded fighting style. That sounds inconvenient. The car warrior moved first, using powered speed that should have overwhelmed an unarmored opponent. Ethan shifted 6 inches. The armored hand passed beside him. He touched the outer wrist control, and the gripping system entered safe mode. The warrior turned, changed stance, and attacked from the opposite side. Ethan stepped inside the armor's turning radius, pressed the shoulder release, and moved away before the adaptive system completed its correction. Warning lights appeared across the car chest plate. The warrior increased power. Ethan did not. He watched the feet, not the hands. When the heavy suit transferred weight forward, Ethan placed one boot against a loose stabilization plate and guided the motion toward an empty support frame beside the trail. The armor caught itself automatically. Ethan pressed the emergency standing lock. The car warrior froze upright, balanced against the frame, unable to advance without a complete system reset. The exchange lasted less than 10 seconds. I had trained against powered infantry for 11 years. I had never seen anyone read an adaptive suit faster than it could adapt. What style was that? The warrior demanded through the helmet speaker. Ethan removed the restraint projector from its belt and placed it beyond reach. Moving out of the way, he returned to me, restored the support channel in my armor, and checked the medical patch beneath my shoulder plate. My scanner captured his biological readings at close range. His pulse had risen by only 4 beats per minute. His breathing remained steady. The car warrior had crossed the ridge expecting a battle. Ethan had treated the encounter like a mechanical problem with an obvious solution. "You were not even trying," I said. Ethan lifted the insulated pack and examined the temperature indicator. "I was trying not to let dinner get cold." A new alert appeared on my display. The Dominion unit below had broken through the first mining barrier, and several signals were climbing toward us. Ethan looked down the trail, then toward an abandoned transit station visible beyond the ridge. "We should move." I stared at the immobilized champion behind us. What happens when his systems reset? Ethan handed me the food container and started walking. "By then," he said, "he will know following us is a bad idea." The abandoned transit station was built into the ridge like a forgotten machine, its cracked glass walls overlooking the canyon and its power grid operating on emergency reserve. Ethan sealed the outer door, placed the insulated food pack on a bench, and connected my armor to a maintenance terminal. "You need 10 minutes before that support channel overheats," he said. "We do not have 10 minutes. Dominion signals were climbing from the lower trail, and a second group had appeared near the eastern platform. Ethan opened his survey case and removed a compact data unit. I recognized the encryption pattern immediately. It did not belong to a transport crew. While he adjusted the terminal, I reached for the unit and accessed the public identification layer. The first page listed Ethan Cole as a civilian survey specialist. The second required military authorization. My captain credentials opened it. A red earth insignia appeared above a classified service record. Ethan Cole, Death World Rescue Division, Hazard Entry Team 7. Authorized for planetary collapse zones, hostile evacuations, and recovery operations abandoned by conventional forces. The file contained locations I knew only from casualty reports. He had entered every one of them and brought people back. "You are not a cook," I said. Ethan checked the power flow in my armor. "I cook. You served in a human rescue unit." "I still do when someone needs help." A slow clap echoed from the upper walkway. A car operative stepped into view wearing adaptive silver armor that shifted shape with every movement. "At last," the alien said. The human record was accurate. Ethan looked toward the food pack. "You opened the east door. I studied your species for 6 years. Your military forms, your rescue patterns, your combat responses. Every technique you know is inside this armor." The operative descended the stairs and activated 2 restraint emitters. "Ethan, move between us. Please leave. You humans always begin with a warning. It saves time when people listen." The operative advanced, and the armor copied Ethan's first step almost perfectly. When he shifted left, it shifted left. When he lowered his center of gravity, the suit adjusted before he completed the movement. I understood the design. It predicted trained patterns and answered them before they became actions. Ethan understood too. He stopped using patterns. He reached for a hanging maintenance cable, pulled it across the walkway, and changed direction without warning. The armor adapted to his body, not the cable. Its right foot caught beneath the line, and the stabilization system paused. Ethan pressed the external safety control near the hip. The operative recovered and changed stance. Ethan picked up a loose transit marker, rolled it across the floor, and stepped the opposite way. The adaptive suit followed his shoulders while its sensors tracked the moving marker. For half a second, it tried to answer two threats that were not attacks. Ethan used that half second to remove the power relay from the chest plate. The armor settled into maintenance mode. The operative remained standing, unharmed and unable to continue. Impossible, the alien said. I studied how humans fight. Ethan placed the relay on the bench beside the sealed dinner. You studied how humans fight, he replied. You forgot to study why. He returned to me and restored the cooling channel in my armor. The terminal displayed his heart rate. It had barely changed. Outside, Dominion troops reached the station entrance. I looked at the classified file, the disabled operative, and the man checking whether the food was still warm. Ethan had never hidden because he was ashamed of what he could do. He had hidden because rescue was easier when nobody understood how dangerous it was to stand between him and the person he had decided to save. The first Dominion carrier appeared above the clouds before the station doors failed. Its shadow crossed the canyon, and every remaining light in the transit terminal dimmed as the ship locked the region beneath a communications blackout. My armor. Display filled with red warnings. Ground forces gathered outside the eastern entrance while the carrier transmitted a single demand across every surviving speaker. Captain Mara Vale will surrender the Asterian Intelligence Archive, or this installation will be erased. Ethan looked at me. That archive is what they attacked your transport to obtain. I touched the sealed data core beneath my shoulder plate. It contains fleet positions, supply routes, and proof that the Dominion has been manipulating neutral systems. Then we are not giving it to them. The outer doors began to bend under remote pressure controls. Ethan moved to the station terminal and opened the oldest section of the network map. Most of it showed abandoned mining relays, weather satellites, and planetary defense equipment marked obsolete decades earlier. Those systems are dead, I said. Not dead. Ignored. He connected his rescue unit to the terminal. The display brightened one line at a time. Outside, the Dominion commander ordered his troops forward. The eastern doors opened 3 feet before Ethan reversed the pressure cycle. The entrance sealed again, separating the leading team from the officers behind them. He activated the platform lights in alternating patterns, forcing every targeting sensor to recalculate. You are using transit controls against an army, I said. I am using an army that depends too much on automatic systems. A command team entered through the upper service passage. Their leader wore Dominion officer armor and carried a fleet access relay. Ethan stepped away from the terminal just long enough to meet them. Please put the relay on the floor. The officer raised a restraint device instead. Ethan moved once, guided the device toward an empty wall, and removed the power core from its base. A second officer tried to close around his left side. Ethan pressed the emergency release on the shoulder plate, locked the armor in support mode, and returned to the terminal before the first officer finished demanding his identity. You left them standing, I said. They are safer that way. The planetary map turned blue. 3 weather satellites accepted Ethan's signal. Then, 5 mining beacons. Then an orbital navigation array that the Dominion carrier had dismissed as civilian infrastructure. Ethan linked them together and created a false fleet corridor above the northern hemisphere. The carrier adjusted position to avoid an approaching force that did not exist. In that movement, it passed directly through the blind zone of the old defense network. Ethan activated the isolation protocol. The carrier lost control of its targeting link. Its support craft were redirected into holding patterns. Every Dominion ground unit received conflicting orders from what appeared to be their own command. I transferred the intelligence archive into Ethan's network. Can you send this to Asterian Command? Not only to them. He opened every neutral relay within range and transmitted the data across the system. Evidence of the Dominion operation spread beyond their ability to contain it. The carrier commander demanded that Ethan disconnect. Ethan locked the network behind rotating rescue codes and disabled the station doors one final time. The ground force lost its targeting systems. The fleet lost its blackout. The sky above us belonged to no one for 3 quiet seconds. Then Asterian signals appeared beyond the atmosphere. When did you plan all of this? I asked. Ethan checked the temperature indicator on the food pack, then looked at the carrier drifting powerless above the canyon. Before the soup started boiling, he said. A Styrian rescue craft reached the transit station 23 minutes after the Dominion carrier lost control of the canyon. By then, Ethan had restored the emergency heaters, opened the sealed food pack, and arranged metal bowls across a maintenance bench. Dominion soldiers who had surrendered sat on one side of the terminal. Styrian survivors gathered on the other. No one spoke while the human divided the remaining stew equally between them. I sat beside the station window with my repaired armor powered down, watching Allied transports descend through the clearing sky. Commander Soren Hale entered first, followed by 6 Styrian security officers in polished combat suits. He looked at the disabled Dominion equipment, the surrendered troops, and Ethan serving dinner from a dented field container. "Captain Vale," he said, "step away from the human." I remained seated. He saved this station. He accessed restricted defense systems without authorization. Ethan placed another bowl in front of a young Dominion technician. "You should eat before they begin the formal arguing," he said. Soren crossed the terminal and activated the command channel on his armor. "Ethan Cole, you are under detention pending investigation." Ethan looked at me. "Does everyone in your military introduce themselves by making the wrong decision?" Soren raised a restraint field between Ethan and the bench. Ethan moved the soup container 2 inches to the left, covering the nearest floor emitter. The system paused automatically to protect the hot surface. Soren tried to redirect the field. Ethan stepped forward, removed the external command relay from the officer's wrist plate, and pressed the emergency support control beneath his shoulder. Soren's armor entered safe, standing mode. His arms lowered, and the restraint field vanished. Ethan returned the relay to the bench beside him. "You can have that back when you stop pointing station equipment at dinner." The security officers looked toward me. I stood slowly and transferred the intelligence record to the main terminal. The evidence showed the Dominion ambush, the compromised extraction routes, and the command orders that would have sent 3 Styrian rescue teams into waiting traps. It also showed Ethan diverting hostile forces, protecting prisoners, and keeping every station system within emergency limits. "Commander," I said, "your approved plan would have cost thousands of lives." Soren stared at the record from inside his locked suit. "And the human acted without authority. He acted when authority failed." Silence settled over the terminal. Ethan handed me the final full bowl and kept the smallest portion for himself. When technicians released Soren, the commander did not attempt another arrest. He asked Ethan what recognition Earth expected for the rescue. Ethan shook his head. "Repair the civilian relays. Stop ignoring old warning systems. Feed the people you detained." He then gave me the station command key. "This belongs to you." I had closed my eyes, believing the war had taken everything from me. When I opened them, a human was cooking dinner because he had already measured every threat, found every weakness, and decided that survival should still include something warm to eat. We thought his calm meant he did not understand the danger. The truth was far more unsettling. Ethan understood it completely, and he had never once believed it was enough to stop him.